Here's the brief. News from the world over this week. New global outrage this week after a suspected sarin gas attack by the Syrian government has left more than 100 dead, including 27 children. Horrific images in the aftermath of the attack showed toddlers and infants convulsing as first responders tried desperately to help them. Syria and Russia have denied any wrongdoing. Both have claimed that Syrian warplanes had hit a rebel-occupied chemical weapons facility. Russia's foreign ministry has called for an investigation, saying that video and photos of the aftermath could have been fabricated. The Trump administration is considering a military response. More on this and the president's reaction in our next segment. And on Capitol Hill, President Trump's nominee for Associate Justice of the Supreme Court, Judge Neil Gorsuch, was confirmed by the Senate, but not without some maneuvers. On Thursday, the Senate Republican majority cleared the way for an up or down confirmation vote for Gorsuch. Democrats filibustered the nomination. In turn, the GOP lowered the 60-vote threshold to close debate down to a simple majority of 51, the so-called nuclear option. Gorsuch was confirmed by a slim majority, with 3 Democrats supporting his confirmation. More on this later. And there are new turns in the investigation of Russian meddling in last year's U.S. elections. The chairman of the House Intelligence Committee is temporarily stepping aside from the panel's probe into the matter. Representative Devin Nunes of California has been accused by Democrats of being too close to the White House and thus unable to lead an impartial inquiry. Democratic activists have filed complaints with the House Ethics Office. Nunes said in a statement that the charges against him are entirely false and politically motivated and come just as the American people are beginning to learn the truth about the improper unmasking of U.S. citizens and other abuses of power, end quote. Meanwhile, Congressman Nunes's comments appear to have been a reference to this week's bombshell revelation that former National Security Advisor to President Obama, Susan Rice, had asked spy agencies to give her the classified names of Trump associates who surfaced in intelligence reports. One of those names was Michael Flynn, the former National Security Advisor to President Trump, who had a conversation with Russia's ambassador. His name was illegally leaked to the press. He subsequently resigned. Trump suggested this week that Rice may have acted illegally herself. On Tuesday, Susan Rice denied that she used the intelligence reports to spy on Trump associates for political purposes. And the U.S. State Department announced this week that it will cease its support of the UN Population Fund. The cut marks President Trump's first step to deny funding to the United Nations and follows his reinstatement of the so-called Mexico City policy, which blocks the federal funding of international organizations that perform or promote abortions. In 2015, the Obama administration earmarked $75 million for the UN program. The Trump State Department said it was dropping the funding because the UN Population Fund, quote, supports or participates in the management of a program of coercive abortion or involuntary sterilization. The United Nations has denied the claim. And with a tie-breaking Senate vote by Vice President Mike Pence, Congress this week nullified an Obama-era regulation designed to protect government funding for Planned Parenthood. Implemented just 2 days before President Obama left office, the regulation prohibited states from redirecting Title X family planning funds away from Planned Parenthood and to community health centers that don't provide abortions. Cardinal Timothy Dolan, chair of the U.S. Bishops' Pro-Life Committee, praised Congress for reversing the law and restoring the ability of states to stop one stream of tax dollars going to Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood has been the largest recipient of the Title X funding. Trump is expected to sign the measure into law. And a New Jersey teenager pleaded guilty this week to a plot to kill Pope Francis during his 2015 visit to the U.S. The Justice Department says Santos Colon, who was 15 at the time, tried to hire a sniper to shoot the Pope at a mass in Philadelphia. According to reports, the teen also planned to detonate explosives. Unbeknownst to Colon, the sniper he tried to recruit was an undercover FBI agent. Colon was arrested nearly 2 weeks before the event. Court documents indicate that he was inspired by ISIS to carry out the attack. Colon is currently undergoing psychiatric evaluation, but once sentenced, he could face up to 15 years in prison. And Pope Francis is offering yet another olive branch to the Society of St. Pius X, a breakaway traditional Catholic group and its faithful. The Pope is permitting, under certain circumstances, SSPX priests the ability to celebrate marriages licitly. In a Vatican letter published this week, the provisions are meant to allay any concerns the faithful might have about the nuptials of the old rite. For the first time since the Society of St. Pius X fell into schism in 1988, the Pope is indicating that it is okay for the faithful to attend a Mass celebrated by their priests. The provision is narrow and only refers to the Holy Mass celebrated immediately following the marriage ceremony. The Vatican letter, however, notes that the authorizations are given despite the, quote, illegitimate canonical situation in which the Society of St. Pius X finds itself. According to reports, talks between the Vatican and the SSPX seeking the regularization of the group continue. And in his most critical words yet on the state of the Church and the liturgy, the Vatican's prefect for the Congregation for Divine Worship said this past week that the Church since the Second Vatican Council is suffering from a serious, profound crisis. Cardinal Robert Sarah made the remarks in an address commemorating the 10th anniversary of Summorum Pontificum, Pope Benedict's initiative allowing expanded use of the traditional Latin Mass. Cardinal Sarah noted that modernist promoters of a living liturgy have placed man and not God at the center of worship. What has been lost, he said, is not only the liturgy's sense of prayer, but its mystery. The faithful are not expected to understand it entirely, but must accept and receive in faith, love, obedience, and an adoring silence. The remodeling of the liturgy, he said, has provoked a disaster, devastation, and schism that we cannot close our eyes to. Some new stats from the Vatican this week. As part of its annual yearbook, what we're discovering is the world's top Catholic populations, according to the Vatican, are Brazil, Mexico, the Philippines, USA, Italy, and France. The Catholic population of Africa grew by almost 20% from 2010 to 2015, but not at all in Europe. The number of Catholic seminarians fell by 9.7% and 8.1% in Europe and the Americas, respectively. But seminarians grew by 7.7% in Africa. And though the number of women religious exceeded the numbers of priests by 61% worldwide, the numbers of women religious are currently in clear decline. And nothing says Easter like those creamy milk chocolate Cadbury eggs, but maybe not anymore. Cadbury, the global chocolatier based in London, found itself in a bit of a row this week when it launched its annual UK Easter egg hunt, having excised the word Easter from the popular nationwide event. The Easter egg hunt, co-sponsored by the National Trusts of England and Scotland, had been known for the better part of a decade as the Cadbury Easter Egg Trail. This year, it was rebranded as just the Cadbury Egg Hunt. Prelates and even the Prime Minister objected. The Church of England accused organizers of airbrushing faith from the family event. The National Trust blamed Cadbury for the name change. PM Theresa May called the whole thing absolutely ridiculous. For its part, the National Trust sought a bit of Easter redemption. The banner on its website that used to read "Join the Cadbury Egg Hunts" now reads "Join the Cadbury Egg Hunts this Easter." Easter resurrected, I suppose. And finally, some sad news at a time when we could all use a laugh. The legendary Don Rickles has died. The comic, who made a name for himself by insulting his audience for more than 60 years, died this past week at the age of 90. Dubbed the Merchant of Venom by Milton Berle and Mr. Warmth by Johnny Carson, Rickles appeared in nightclubs until very recently. He starred in movies, including his work as the voice of Mr. Potato Head in Pixar's Toy Story and his sitcom CPO Sharky. But it was his live act that brought audiences to their knees. I saw him so many times, I'm still recovering. He was best friends with Bob Newhart, and together, the Newharts and the Rickles toured the world together, including the Vatican. What I would have paid to be on that trip. Don Rickles, may he rest in peace. And I am out on the Will Wilder 2 book tour. You folks in St. Louis, Atchison, Kansas, and Northern Virginia, come see me. I'll be in St. Louis with Ridley Pearson at Left Bank Books on April 10th, then at Benedictine College on April 17th, and at the Fairfax, Virginia Barnes & Noble on April 20th. It has been a blast. All the details and times are at RaymondArroyo.com, and I look forward to seeing you all.